welcome back to another episode of Whiskey and Water.
Today we have an incredible episode for you that we're really excited to share. For us, it just felt so aligned, comfortable.
A breath of fresh air.
I feel understood.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, we want to thank our show sponsor, Celsius.
Celsius gang. You guys know the vibes.
You know the vibes.
Today we are drinking Peach Vibe. Guys, if you guys aren't already on this, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's healthy energy. It accelerates your metabolism. It burns body fat. I was actually at a girls' night last night, and the girls showed up with it. And I was like, hell yeah, sister. And she was like, girl, this stuff is insane. And I was like, I know.
I know.
And it's fun. It's honestly hard for me to contain my excitement when other people have Celsius around, because I'm like, yes, you understand.
You're like my people.
100%. I'm like, I want to start like a
fan club.
Yeah, like a neighborhood like Celsius gang.
You're not wrong, honestly. Guys, it's no high fructose corn syrup, no aspartame, no preservatives, and no artificial colors or flavors. You absolutely love to see it. Link is in our description to purchase.
Hell yeah, brothers. And we would like to thank our next sponsor, which is Fitness Realm. Yes. And Fitness Realm is really similar to Women's Realm. You guys know that we have been repping Women's Realm for the past few episodes. Now we're going to tell you a little bit about Fitness Realm. Their goal is to help you live a fitter, healthier, and happier life. They understand that not everyone is looking to spend countless hours in the gym, which is why their content is designed to make the most of your time and resources, whether you're a regular gym goer or an at-home exerciser, or if you're just someone that wants to dabble in it, get into it, and you don't know where to start because there's so much fitness content out there.
Yes. And their articles are curated with the help of experts in various fields, including fitness, sports, nutrition, and more. From news, advice, and reviews of the latest products and apps, they cover all aspects of fitness. No, period.
Period.
She said period.
Check them out. Their link is in our description. A Fitness Realm, baby.
Yes, go get fit.
Go get fit.
Okay.
Go get snatched. We got Celsius and we got Fitness Realm.
Yeah.
You guys know the vibes.
We're really out here. We have an amazing discussion today with Jacqueline. She is the CEO, founder, boss babe behind Your Inner Babe, which is a coaching service that she provides.
She is a certified mentality coach. She's like been 4 times certified over. She honestly just, she went through some things in her, early life that led her on this path to bridging a gap between kind of like clinical therapy and people who just need a little bit more like of a guidance, a kick in the ass. And honestly, she's just really, really amazing. Like, I could have talked to her all day.
Yeah, she's kind of like a big sister that you feel like you just want in your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I mean, after our conversation, I'm signing up for her class.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Jess is legitimately actually going to look into her programs because it was just that good, and she's just so genuine in her business.
No bullshit, but in a way that's not like no BS.
Yeah, it's not like tacky.
It's like really like a no judgment zone. Yeah. And I love that.
So good. We talk about, turning your service into a business, and we talk about how she has scaled her small team.
Why it's important to have a healthy mindset as a business owner and as a leader. We talk about like company culture and just like, creating a healthy company culture, really like humanizing people and your employees and just some really, really amazing takeaways for business owners and just like people alike.
Yeah, talk about boundaries. It's just there's so much good stuff in there. You guys are really going to love this episode. If you're listening, please take a screenshot and tag us. Let us know you're listening. We love to see it.
But before we get into it, we are going to bother you guys with our weekly challenge. You guys have been loving our weekly challenges, so that's honestly really supportive for us because for a minute we were like, should we change this up?
We're like, is anyone even doing these? But we're getting your tags. We're seeing it. So please keep tagging us if you guys are doing these, because it's definitely validating for us. Because we're like, okay, they like it.
And like, we're doing this stuff with you guys. Like, so it's, they're good takeaways that we believe in and, want to, share with you guys.
Yes.
But this week's takeaway. Am I okay? This week's weekly challenge was actually inspired by this episode. Yes. We talk about it a little bit at the end of the episode, which, by the way, guys, listen all the way through because there is amazing stuff even towards the end of this episode. Like, it's all really incredible. So if you guys do listen through, you will hear this, like, you know, pretty similar. But this week's weekly challenge is a brain dump. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit with yourself, pen, paper. If you're not a pen and paper person, you know, take your phone, notes, do that jazz. But you're going to do a brain dump, and essentially you're just going to clear that little noggin of yours. And I mean, I feel like we get information overload all the time, and to like have everything floating up here can be really taxing, really distracting at all times of the day.
And it's something that most of us, I mean, I know me and how I go about my days. I don't even notice that it's taxing and that it's like distracting me low-key in the background of my head while I'm like interacting with people, but it is. So I think trying this in the morning would be really helpful to start your day out with a clear mind. And if 10 minutes is too long, take however much. Start with 3 minutes, I would say minimum, and then see how long you sit there. See, I know definitely like we could sit for an hour and things would just keep coming out and ideas, and you know that might lead to great things, but start with 3 minutes and see how you feel with that. 3 to 10 minutes, you know, brain dump, just get everything out that is in the ether right now, put it on paper, and then, you know, see how you feel. And if you guys enjoy it, if it resonates with you, you know, try to do that every day. Try to make it a daily practice where you kind of just brain dump. And because I feel like, you know, when you're really honest with yourself, you know, you'll just be able to go throughout your day better. You'll realize, you know, maybe you're writing down things that you didn't even know was up there. Right. Or you have the taxing energy of trying to remember to do something. For me, it's more of that's that. A lot of it's like, oh yeah, I have to remember to do this. And then 4 of those tasks get up there. And then I either end up forgetting one, or I'm like, it's taking a lot of mental energy for me to keep remembering those things. And for me, it has to get to a threshold where I feel like I have to brain dump, and I would like to not have to get to that point.
I feel that.
So I'm really excited to see how that's going to work for us. I think we're going to try to do it every day and see how that changes our day and just how we like operate, honestly.
And that was her biz pro tip. So you guys know it's real.
We gave you a little, you know,
insight because we just felt it was so good.
Yeah, so good.
So if you guys, like we said, please take a screenshot, share this on your story, and we hope you guys love this episode. All right, guys, we are here with Jacq. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Doing well. Sending you some warm vibes over there in Chicago.
Yeah, we need it. We need it. We're, like I said, in the 60s right now, which is huge for us. It means like we can start to see sun again, which is important for everyone. But any Miami vitamin D you want to send to me, I'm here for it. So
we are.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Manifesting as we speak.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Need it.
So if you wanted to just tell our audience a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, what you do, who you are.
Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Gould. I am a certified mentality coach. I am a self-connection specialist. And I am the founder and CEO of Your Inner Babe, which is a coaching company. We work with women of all ages on self-connection and shifting from self-doubt into self-love through a lot of different modalities, through one-on-one coaching, group coaching, spiritual healing, breath work. And I, got into it after a long time battle with myself. I battled an eating disorder all throughout my high school and college years, and it really hit rock bottom for me when I was a junior in college. And I ended up going to an outpatient program, and I had amazing clinical help, but I still felt really alone when I would sort of leave that therapeutic setting. And what I needed was somebody who was going to be able to sort of bridge that gap so that I would continue to feel supported, not feel alone, someone who could really like look me in the eye and be like, babe, I get it, right? Like, let's get to the other side. I'll help you and support you and hold you accountable to this version of you that you deserve to connect to. And I didn't have that. So I struggled for much longer in silence by myself. And fast forward a few years, as the more work I did on myself and evolved, it became evident that that was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be that person. And so I became that person. And that's where Your Inner Babe was born out of. And now I'm grateful every day because I get to help women do what I needed back in the day, which is find themselves and actually love who they find.
Everything you said was so good. I'm so excited to really get into this with you. And I really loved one thing you said about how, you gave credit to the clinical help that you got and how they really helped you recover during that phase of your life. But I love how you made the point of like your physical self was recovering and better and back to normal. However, your mental self was still struggling and still in a rut. And I think there's a disconnect a lot of times between the two. And it's so important for, especially, to business owners, as we are talking about business on our show and kind of gearing towards that space. It's so important that business owners also take their mental health into consideration and really like acknowledge where they're at and be true to themselves and be truthful, like I think a lot of times, especially with social media, it's very easy to just be like, everything's good, I'm successful, I'm killing it. And I just love that you have this program where you allow people to really be real with themselves and help guide them through their personal development journey. I think that is so awesome and really needed in this space particularly.
Yeah, I think, in order to be a leader, you have to lead yourself first, right? And so a leader in any space, you have to be able to check in with yourself and be honest with yourself. Like you said, I mean, social media is a highlight reel for most of us, which is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But it's also, I think, like what people respond to most is people who are honest and real and authentic, and people relate more to somebody who's going to be vulnerable and honest about where they are versus where they think at least that's the battle that I always had. Was in the beginning, when I started Your Inner Babe, I kind of had this idea that I had to be this perfect person in order to help somebody. And that if like I showed any of my imperfections or showed any of my days that I faltered, or human days, because we're all going to have human days no matter how much work we do. We can't avoid the inevitable. But if I showed any of that, then no one would want to work with me, because why would they trust me if I still had bad days? And that's just false evidence appearing real, which is fear. But I think people started responding to me and why I'd be much more once I started to be much more myself and honest with where I was at every given point throughout any given day.
Yeah. And honestly, I find personally that it inspires me so much when I see other people and just, in leadership positions, and just, people with large followings, people that I look up to who inspire me, like when they are being transparent and when they're being real about like what they're going through. Because even like spirituality and, loving yourself is a journey, and you are like, and, growth isn't linear. You're going to have up days, down days, whatnot. And so when seeing other people be transparent with that, just makes me, I feel like it just continues to normalize it. So, I love that you're super transparent about that as well. I would definitely just love to talk about kind of what your kind of process has been, stepping into this role. Because, like you said, you kind of realized that you needed to be that person, not only for yourself, but for others. And so what has that process been like for you of like discovering and stepping into that role?
It's a great question. It's evolved so much. I started Your Inner Babe in 2017. And when I was, first coaching, I didn't know if I was going to be a one-on-one coach for the rest of my life. I didn't know really what I was going to do. I just knew that my intention was always going to be to reach as many women as I can and really, change the way they think and feel about themselves. And so the business itself has evolved the more I've evolved. And I think the less I attach to an end outcome and the more I just allow myself to go with the flow of myself, right? Like it doesn't, and nothing I want to do or nothing that's been successful or had a positive impact has come out of me forcing it, right? If something isn't happening, that means it's, in my opinion, not supposed to happen. And so years of letting trial and error sort of take the wheel and gut instinct lead me, I've gotten to where I am. And I think if I were to talk to anybody who is just starting a business, like, just be honest, with what you want, but always have a clear intention. And so stepping into where I am now, it's just been a process. Like, it's been stepping stones. I've never, I was a drama major in college. If you would have told me in college, like, oh, Jacq, you're going to start a business and like have a team of 5. And like, I would have laughed. I would have been like, yeah, okay, for sure. Right. Me, I'm going to sing. And as much as I love singing and performing, and that's a part of me, of course, like, this is so me. And I think why I be is what it is. It's like a family, and I'm at the center of it. Like I will never not be at the center of it, no matter how big I want it to become and how many people I want to touch and reach. I will always be right in the middle, because I think it's me. Like it's what I needed, and I know that I'm not alone in that.
It's a manifestation of yourself. It is your inner babe is your inner babe, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's I really love that. I think that's really powerful.
And so touching too. It's so like, it's so clear how passionate you are about this, and how truly it aligns with you as a human. And I love seeing that, because again, I think in business it's easy to try to put on an act or portray that you're a certain someone, and I love that who you are at the core is aligned with what your business is and what it does and the purpose it serves for others.
Thank you. I really received that, because you know, it's our livelihood, of course, what we do for a living. It's how we live, but it's never and will never be a numbers game for me, literally ever. I've been doing on and off free sessions since the pandemic started last March. Like I'll take weeks and I'll just make 30-minute sessions with me free for any first-time clients, because I never want somebody to hold themselves back from asking for help because of a dollar sign. Mm-hmm. And I've run into a lot of people along the way so far where that's the opposite. Money is obviously their end goal. And I honestly, without judgment, that's their prerogative. But I was talking to my assistant earlier today, and I was like, I will work for free for points in my life, no matter where I am, because it's really just about helping people, period.
So good. Yeah. Love that so much.
I even, you know, it's a little off topic, but I got on like this random like call with some of like my neighbors. You know, a lot of them like wanted to connect in the community. So we hopped on like this Clubhouse chat, and we were all kind of saying ways that we could like help each other, and I offered like anyone in my building like a free headshot session, you know, just to like help them out. And I really resonate with what you said, and I hope that, you know, obviously right now we're really, really busy as we're focusing on scaling, but I definitely want to make that like giving back portion, you know, a part of our, you know, company culture. I mean, even to launch Mood, we did 2 giveaway winners, and we basically gave them like a full production photo shoot.
That's amazing.
Which was really incredible for us to do. And, you know, we love helping out those small businesses. I would love to talk a little bit more about like what your inner babe is for someone, you know, our audience members, you know, they might not be familiar with you or your, you know, program. So take us kind of like through your inner babe.
Great. So your inner babe is, you know, your spirit, your most authentic self, your true essence. Like you at your most connected and aligned, when you feel your best, light and free, like that is your inner babe. You're connected to your inner babe. You know, I really do believe that we all have that. Every single one of us has that. We just lose sight of that part of ourselves. I mean, life tries really, really hard to sort of not let us feel that connection. And then obviously we can't prevent the inevitable, as we saw in 2020. And then at parts of 2021, shit's going to happen no matter what, outside of our control. And the only thing we really do have control over is how we show up for ourselves and how we take care of ourselves. And so what I do with clients is really help lead them back to them, right? Help them find the you that they've always been, and prioritize that relationship. Because I think once you prioritize that relationship, everything else becomes stronger. You know, people think once you get the job or you get the guy or you look this way, like that's it. And that's not it. You know, it's once you've found you, then you bring in everything else.
That resonates so strongly with us, because that is a theme that we've been pushing on this show since day one, is that, you know, people get very lost in the drive and the ambition of success and building a business and, you know, climbing the ladder of success in corporate America, whatever, you know, it may be. But you're not going to find what you need there. Like it's always here. And that's the only place you're ever going to find it.
Yeah. Even a quote that you told me, you know, reminded me of the other day was that the most important relationship that you'll ever have is the one that you have with yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I think we can lose sight of that a lot because we do get caught up in like the day-to-day, like the hustle, the tasks, like we're moving from this to that, especially as like, you know, women in business and people, you know, entrepreneurs, like we are always kind of looking at the next thing, but we kind of forget that we have to nurture the relationship with ourselves. And that is work. You know, it's not always easy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our day-to-day life is about nurturing relationships with others, right? Whether it's romantically, with family, with your team, with our assistant, whoever it is. Like so much energy gets put out into these relationships, and at the end of the day, it's like, are you putting that energy back into the relationship you have with yourself as well?
Definitely.
Definitely. Do you want to say anything?
No, I mean, I was just going to say that's 100% spot on. That's exactly what we do, right? It's so much, it's why it's easier to give advice to other people than it is for you to take your own advice. It's just so easier for you to ask the questions to other people than it is for you to ask yourself. And some foundational principle of YIB is really just asking yourself, how am I feeling? Because I think that if you can check in with yourself and really check in with your feelings and notice them and allow them to be present and be there, then that's the quickest way to connect to who you are. Just ask yourself the same thing I would ask you. Hey guys, what's up? How are you feeling? Right? Like what's hard about that? Nothing. But people never take the time to just sit there and be like, hey Jacq, like, how are you feeling? Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not second nature.
I love that so much. And before we move on, I am curious to know just a little bit about your process in starting this business, because there had to have been, with your story and with your background, I want to know, at what point did you go from experiencing that, you know, within your personal life to realizing that you could make this a business? And I know you wanted to be that person that you needed, but I'm curious to know if you had like a pivotal moment for you that you were like, I'm going to make this a business. I'm going to help other people. This is going to be a full-time thing. Did you have a moment like that for yourself?
Absolutely. I did.
I want to hear it.
And it's probably one of my favorite stories to tell.
Yes.
So like I mentioned, I was a drama major. I went to NYU, and I really did at one point think
she educated.
She's talented.
I'm so cool. No, but I really did at one point think that Broadway or performing was the only thing that I was ever capable of doing.
Wow.
And what happened was, because I was battling with myself so tremendously, that by the time I graduated, I had the passion beat out of me. Like I really wanted nothing to do with performing anymore. And so when I graduated, I thought I wanted to be a talent agent. And it's funny to think back, because it does everything that I did up until where I am now. There's a through line. It connects in some way, shape, or form. It makes sense.
Always does.
Yeah. And so I thought I wanted to be a talent agent, and I was finally like in a place with myself that I felt comfortable. And so I worked in an agency for a year, and I realized that was just far too corporate for me and not it. Yeah. And so I quit. And around the time that I quit was 2014. And it was in that time period where like beautiful plus size models were like finally getting recognized. Like, I mean, they've always been recognized, but the recognition they deserve, like Ashley Graham and Danica Brycia and Iskra, like all these beautiful women, just for owning who they are and owning their figures and their bodies. And I actually got scouted to model. And I told myself, like, okay, I will model if I can inspire one girl a day to just feel comfortable as she is, because I really know what it's like to feel the opposite. And so fast forward, I did that for a year. And a year into modeling, it was fun, but it wasn't fulfilling me the way that I had hoped it would. I didn't feel like that sports bra I was modeling on set was like really reaching anyone or really changing somebody's life. And so I left set one day, and I had a conversation with my Grammy, who was like my person. And she just like sat there and looked at me, and she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I just feel really lost. Like, I feel like I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing. I'm feeling like modeling is just not it. She was like, okay, but what about modeling? What brought you to modeling? And I was like, well, I really wanted to, find women and help change the way they felt about themselves and to embrace themselves. And she was like, why? And I was really caught off guard, because no one had ever asked me why in my life. Why do you want to do that? And I sort of sat back, and I had this moment where I was like, because I want to be the person that I needed. I want to shift the attitude of somebody's mind and the way that they think and fucking feel about themselves. Like, I want to bridge the gap so nobody ever feels alone and everybody feels supported. And she was like, Jacq, you're lit up. Like, you've got to do that. That's it. That's your why. Go do it now.
And I was chills.
Like, yeah, no. And I was like, whoa, okay, sure. And I went home that night, and I researched certification programs, and I signed up for my first one, and I started the next day, and I'm now 4 times certified. And, I finished a year-long program in in 4 months, and I just never looked back, you know? And like I said,
Wow.
I didn't know exactly what YIB would be. I just knew that it was important, and that it needed to be something, and that it needed to exist. And I'm grateful that I never had to give up, because it's been a slow build. But it's doing something, and it's helping hundreds and hundreds of women. And I just am so grateful that somebody asked me my why. And when she passed away, I implemented asking everybody their why in every program, because knowing my why changed my life. And so you want to change your life, let's find your why.
That's beautiful. Wow. She's we're crying in the club right now.
We are. That's so amazing. And actually, before we rebranded into being more business oriented, we would ask questions every week, like the deep dive question segment. And one of our questions to our guests is, what is your why? So we totally love that. And we totally get it. And I would encourage our listeners, if you're listening, to really hone in on that. And it's not something you have to think of immediately, come up with an answer, but really sit with yourself. And while you drive, while you wash the dishes, whatever it is, just really ponder what you feel like your why is. And I feel like it will trickle down into every other aspect of your life. And who knows how it can play out once you have that realization.
Mm-hmm. And I think people are intimidated sometimes. They think, like,
definitely,
I don't know what my why. You do know. Give yourself the space to answer the question for yourself, and let it, like you said, it doesn't have to happen and come instantly to you. Like, give yourself the space to let it come. Like, you know why.
And it also doesn't have to start off super specific. No. It doesn't have to be like, well, I want to do X, Y, and Z on X, Y, and Z date. You can be like, hey, well, things that I feel called to do are create. I like to help others. I like to connect with others, like things of that nature. Like, you can kind of just open up the door for yourself that way, and just kind of getting that foot in the door will allow you to continue to walk through.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Love
for
that.
sure.
I am curious to pick your brains about what you feel like the difference is between therapy and coaching, because the service you're providing is very much a coaching service. And I think sometimes people can get confused between the two. So I would love your insight and any clarity you might be able to
or even I think specifically like why you need either or like, someone might be like, oh, I need a therapist, and they might not necessarily need a therapist, but maybe they just need a coach instead, or vice versa. You're like, you need a therapist,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I think therapy and coaching is the dream team. I like I said, this stemmed from me having amazing clinical help, where I was, working through trauma and learning about my mental health, and therapists are trained to help you work through trauma and to, dive into the deeper depths of your mind. And, I needed, though, somebody outside of that clinical box, because a therapist, there are just legal lines they have to stand behind. A therapist isn't going to send you a motivational text. They just can't do that. Right. And so I think it's a dream team, because if I had that coach, additionally, I would have just had extra support and accountability. But if you're looking either or, I just don't think they're comparable. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, I like to call myself sort of like your best friend who's going to kick you in the ass when you need to like not fall off. And I'm just going to make sure that you're constantly supported and held accountable and constantly connecting to who you are, right? A therapist is going to work through your trauma. I can't do that. I can just help you love yourself.
Okay. That clarifies things, because I think definitely for a therapist, it's like,
they're deep diving on like your childhood.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Well, yeah. And it's not, you're right. It's not their place, like legally, and just in terms of what the position entails. It's not their place to kick you in the ass. I mean, that's
but
why.
They might. I mean, my therapist definitely kicks me in the ass, but I'm not sitting there texting my therapist if I'm like in the middle of like if I need extra attention or support in the moment. Like I'm just not doing that to her. That's just not her job. Right. Like I can sort of cross that line. I can be there every step of the way. A therapist just can't. Not that they wouldn't want to. I have therapists who go through my programs all the time. And like, that's the greatest thing, is they're like, as much as I would want to be like that for my clients and be so like super available and super attentive, I just can't. That's just not what I'm able to do. So we just bridge the gap. That's literally what YB does. We bridge the gap. But I would never tell anybody like pick coaching over therapy ever. I just get a lot of people coming to me saying they just want more. They want somebody who's going to talk, who's a little less talk and a little more action. And that's what I am. I'm going to teach you tangible tools and practices. We're going to implement them into your actual day-to-day life, and we're going to make a change.
I almost feel like it's two different steps, and if taken in the order which you did, it's almost like, you know, one is to first heal the mess or like clean up the mess, and then the next step is to decorate and, you know, start getting some interior designing in there. I don't know if that is like the right symbolism, but
no, I totally hear that. I think it can be a step-by-step process. You start with therapy and then you move into coaching, or you're in therapy and you need an extra level, or you just don't, therapy is not for you and you feel like you need coaching. There's no perfect recipe or, you know, plan that you can go down. It really is what you need. And I would say if you're thinking about doing coaching, then meet with the person that you feel pulled towards and see if they're a good fit for you. If they're a good coach, and like I pride myself on, I'm never going to sit there and tell somebody like, oh, I'm for you, I could totally help you. If like, I don't think they're for me, that's just what good would that do?
Right.
I think it's so important. You want somebody who's going to be honest with you. That's the whole point.
Yeah. And I mean, I love that you also just emphasize like just two things that really resonate with me is the one, like emphasizing that coaching and therapy are different because they are so different. And two, like I feel like that's what off-puts a lot of people to things like therapy. Like they don't really know where to start because it's a little bit more formal, right? So it's not like you can like be like, oh, I don't know if I vibe with this person. Like you have to go into a session, you have to like, you know, sit, and that can be really uncomfortable. And you can maybe do that multiple times before you find someone that you kind of like really resonate with. But I also feel like, you know, kind of how you sell your service through social media, people really get, you know, a bird's eye view of who you are as a person. Like they can see your personal, they can see your business, they can see kind of, you know, what your vibe is, and they can be like, hey, okay, this girl looks like, you know, someone I can relate to, you know, she's got something that, you know, calls to me. So I feel like it's just, you know, entirely different, but I do like how it's, you know, it's just a different process with you, and people
that you said that.
People know what they're buying into, you know, before
Absolutely.
everything.
And I can use myself as a personal anecdote. Like I can talk about myself. A therapist, yes, they can, but they're not going to as much.
And I feel like a lot of people might not want that either. Like if I'm telling a therapist my trauma and they're like, oh, well, I also, you know, was traumatized, and I'd be like, I'm not here for that. But for you,
this is my session.
Yeah. But for you, I mean, I feel like I would be more open to hearing, you know, your story about how you started, you know, at X and got to Y. But you can go ahead.
Before we move on, just another note I love that you made is just like, it has to be a good fit for both sides. Like it doesn't just have to be a good fit for you, as you know, oh, I'm getting a client, it has to be a good fit for them. Are you the right coach for them, and are they the right client for you, you know, because that's how it's going to be most successful. I think a lot of people are quick to just be like, all right, yeah, we're doing this, and it's like, no, if you want to be successful, what
I was just thinking like, I don't know, I was just kind of thinking about your ideal client, and then I was like, what if like a 40-year-old man like just like signed up and you were like, hey,
well, right, I'd be like,
I don't know.
Listen, let's have a conversation.
Hey, your inner babe, who knows?
Right.
I'm just saying,
I mean,
you know?
men ask me, I get questions like, do you work with men? Will you work with men? And I would love to work with men. I would love one day to find the male version of me and sort of help that person work with men. I'm just not there yet. Not saying I can't. We're just keeping it female focused right now. But I've sat in multiple like pre-info calls or pre-sessions where I've said like, I'm not going anywhere. If you feel like this is aligned in the future, like let's connect. But like, I feel like right now you are better suited with X or better suited with Y. Or I've been in sessions where I'm like, dude, I could fucking help you. Like, let's go.
Right. Yeah, I love it has to be a good fit for both sides. All right, guys, we're going to pause really quickly before we continue the rest of the conversation. We want to bring you a sponsorship from Podcorn. Podcorn is a marketplace connecting podcasters to amazing podcast sponsorship opportunities such as host read ads, interview segments, topical discussions, and more.
With Podcorn, there is no middleman. Podcasters of all sizes can browse and choose opportunities right on the platform, set their own rates, and collaborate with brands directly without any exclusivities.
Yes, and you never give up any rights to your podcast, and Podcorn is here to support you at every step and ensure you're protected and compensated for the work that you do for brands.
Yes, this is a must for anyone who wants to start a podcast. Like we said a few weeks ago, We wish we would have known about this sooner. This is such an amazing tool, and we love discovering Podcorn.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about starting a podcast, or if you already have one, definitely look into Podcorn. We will include the link in our description, and we won't hold you any longer. Let's get right back into our episode.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to, how personal does it get? Because I feel like a lot, like, coaching can also, like, from the outside look like, you know, like, you have to have a pretty intimate relationship with these, you know, or understanding rather of who these people are, how they operate, in order to best help them, because you know, you have to understand what they're going through, what they've gone through, and where they're going. So I'm just kind of curious, how does that process go for you when you're like kind of like learning these people? Like, how personal does it get? Does that ever, like,
are there boundaries?
Like what are your boundaries for that? And I mean, like, as like a business owner who sells a service as well, like a service that can be very emotionally like draining. So I'm just kind of curious about the back end of that for you.
Yeah, no. So let's take it one at a time. One meaning it is an energetic exchange. I am very emotionally invested, but I've gotten really good at setting this, like, I like to picture it like, it's going back to my Grammy. Like, she's just like, they're like angel wings, and she's hugging me, and she's protecting my space, my energy, so that nothing is invading me. Right. Like, so I'm fully present and fully there, but I'm not taking it on, because when I first started coaching, I would take on I would literally, I mean, my days would be ruined. I'm an empath. Like, I would hold people's shit, and I didn't know why or how to get rid of it. So I've had to set that sort of energetic boundary right off the bat in order to be good to go. But yes, it gets personal, of course. The thing is, though, you know, I call myself a mentality coach. And why I call myself a mentality coach is because I really pride myself, especially at this point in my career, at being able to shift the attitude of your mind and the way that you think and feel about yourself. And in order to do that, I need you to, like, let me in to see you, right? The more you give me, the more you'll get.
Right.
I can only hand you the weights. I can't fucking lift them for you. So that's what I'll say to anybody. My job, though, is not to force somebody into something they're not ready for. It's to meet them where they are. So if somebody is more blocked off, that's just where they are.
Right.
But they get as much out of it as somebody who's extremely open. No, but also being open and vulnerable and honest does take time. So the way that I work with people is through an 8-week program. And at YIB, there's tons of things and ways you can, you know, connect yourself and work on yourself, but there's one lane in, and that's through Reconnected, which is the 8-week group program. And it's small, it's 6 people. And what I do before I even start a program with someone is I have them fill out, like, pre-work is what I call it. And it's like a list of serious questions where I just want to get to know you on a level that I would know you intimately one-on-one if we were only working together one-on-one. And that just helps me better understand you. I have to understand you in order to know how to meet you where you are and how to best support you. So does it get personal? Absolutely. But only if that person's willing to go there. I'm not going to force it out of somebody. I can't.
Right. Yeah. That's
but why?
Yeah, that's so true. And I think it's more beneficial for you too, because, you know, it has to happen organically. It all has to unfold naturally. If anything felt forced, you know, that could be uncomfortable for you. It would be uncomfortable for them. So I think just letting it be natural and letting it evolve however it does is really nice. And I think comforting for people, because I think that's what might scare people away from a coaching program or therapy. You know, either of those things is that they don't want to throw themselves out there too soon. So I like the idea of someone being able to really, like, you meeting them where they're at, whatever they're comfortable sharing, and just
it's also baby steps.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally. We're taking baby steps. I'm not expecting you to go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And I'm also, at the end of the day, I'm not going to make you a new person in 8 weeks.
Right.
I wouldn't even want to do that. I just want to help you find you. Give me 8 weeks and I'll change your life. Period.
Love it.
Love it.
Change our life. I do want to get into a little bit on the business aspect of your program. And first, I want to start the conversation by asking you why you personally feel like having a healthy mentality is important in supplementing a successful business.
I think it's similar to what I said in the beginning. In order to be a leader, you have to lead yourself. You know, so I have to show up for myself in order to show up for my employees, in order to show up for all my clients, in order to show up for my future clients or future opportunities. I have to put myself first. And that's not a selfish thing. That's a selfless thing. Because if I prioritize myself and my mentality and my mind, then everything can actually happen. Right. Like, and it doesn't have to be this like crazy intangible thing. Like it could be as simple as sitting, like I said, with your hands in your heart for 5 minutes, ask yourself how you're feeling, and then journal for 5 minutes. Like it's just a constant practice. And I really do think that self-love is the foundation of all. Like if I love myself, I'm going to show up bigger and better for everybody that needs me to show up. I'm going to attract better and greater opportunities. And self-love is a choice though. So I'm going to have to make the choice to choose myself every single day.
And how does that play out with your team? Like, and you said it's a team of 5 now, your Inner Babe?
Yeah.
So what is kind of like the company culture? Has everyone done your Inner Babe? Like
everyone's been a client. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I love that.
Yeah. And I've sort of made that it's not negotiable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
in order to know me and in order to know why I do what I do and why YIB exists, you have to go through it.
Wow, that's so interesting. Like I'm thinking about that like in the aspect of like any sort of like job. What if we were like, you have to take this mindset course to become the best version of yourself before you can work for me?
You're so not wrong. It could be like an onboarding process for new employees. Like you got to do
totally.
yourself work.
No, but what's interesting too is everybody who works, with the exception of one person I've had, she's been with me since the onset of YIB or since inception. And she ended up going through the programs after the fact, but the others, and this happens a lot where people go through Reconnected and then after Reconnected is the program. And then after they pitch themselves, like, I want to be a coach for you. I want to work for YIB, or I want to do this for YIB or whatever. And I think because the more they learn about themselves and the more they reconnect to themselves, the more they see like how much they can bring into this world, how much they have to offer, how impactful they can be. And so I don't know if the people who work for me now would have known they wanted to do what they're doing had they not chosen themselves and gone and like done the work.
She's just out here pumping out mentality coaches. Dude, I love it.
A factory. You love to see it. No,
we're not a factory. We're our family.
Yes, the factory as in, creating a beautiful person and pushing them out at the end of the 8-week program. I love that. And that is really interesting for us as small business owners and trying to scale. I love that you have like a small team around you. And I am curious a little bit for selfish reasons about what it was like scaling your business for you. Because like you said, you started with you and then your one other teammate and you eventually brought more people on. Are they full-time?
Yeah. So I have 2 full-time employees and then the rest are freelance.
Nice.
Investing in my first full-time employee was really scary.
Yeah.
Like it was, it took a lot of mutual trust.
Yeah.
And time, right? Like I've been screwed over in the past by people business-wise, and I've made some decisions where like they weren't the best choices and I had to pay for that.
Yeah.
And so I definitely am quick, or I'm slow to trust, but my heart is so open, and like it's just a building process that we have to do together. But it's just, for me, I'm kind of like a control freak too. So like it's really hard for me to delegate and to give task away to other people to do it. I want my hands in everything, which doesn't serve anybody. It holds me back from doing the things that I'm best suited to do. It allows me to put my face out there more. And so it's just, for me, it's like each person I've brought on, it's been necessity. It's like, if I want this to happen, then this has to happen first. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Sure. And you asked about culture too. And it's funny you say that, because I've been all their coaches before. Do you know what I mean? So like now I'm their boss, but I'm still like, you'll be in a one-on-one meeting with me. And this has happened so many times where I'm like watching them talk to me, report things to me. And I'm like, what's wrong?
Oh my God, I love that.
You know what I mean? And they're like, nothing. And I'm like, no, you think we're going to sit here and have a meeting before we talk about how you're actually doing, what's going on? And then it turns into like, that they laugh about it, but it's true. We have to process our feelings. I'm not going to sit here and make you work through something that needs to be talked about. Like, no. Yeah. So it's a very like loving, open culture.
I love that so much, because that is something I feel like lacks so much in the workplace. Like, we've seen it firsthand, and like why we've had such a not bad experience per se with jobs, but like something that was really motivating for us to work for ourselves was that relationship of just like, dude, I'm human.
Being human.
I'm human and you're human, and I know you're my boss, but at the end of the day, you know, we have the same organs. We're both pooping in a toilet. We're both getting 8 hours of sleep, whatever it is, you know. And I just love that you said that so much, because growing our company's culture is something that we are taking super seriously. And like, we're always trying to be like, be transparent with us, be honest with us, tell us what we're doing wrong, you know.
And also so just important. As like leaders and bosses, like taking accountability and being like, and also trying to check in on our one employee, and we have one employee in Kennedy, but like, you know, checking in on her and making sure she's okay, making sure that like if we need to improve on anything, that we are taking accountability and improving, and we're not like, you know, overloading her or overworking her, because, you know, and it's honestly a really fine balance, because while things need to get done and we need to take that seriously, we also need to be, you know, cognizant that she's one person and she's a human, and, you know, she's going through her own shit every day. Like, we're all just, you know, I feel like trying to do our best. And I feel like people need to realize that more.
Yeah. So that relationship,
being an honest boss also too, like not even just an honest with integrity, but honest with where you are too. It goes back to sort of what I said. I thought I had to be this perfect person in order to help people. And I think I really realized that in 2019, how that was like so not the case. When I battled depression and anxiety my whole life. I always will. It's something I carry, but I can't control the dips that happen. I can only control how I show up during them. And it happened in October of 2019. Yeah, October 2019, I went like really dark for a week. And I was so scared to say it out loud and so scared to tell clients. And I'm like, I had done all this work. How the fuck am I here? Like, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And so when I stopped judging and I started to just say it and I said it to my clients, everyone was like, Jacq, this is why we work with you, because you're also a person and you're not pretending you're not. And with being a boss, it's the same thing. It's like, if I don't feel good, if I'm having a bad day, like, what, I'm going to sit there and not acknowledge that? Like, I'm going to say, like, guys, I'm really fucking irritable today. Please, no one take me personally. Like, just know this is where I am. Yeah. And so they know where to meet me, right? I can't expect them to read my mind or to know what's going on. I have to communicate. In any relationship, you have to communicate. You can only control yourself.
Yeah.
God, and even resonating with us so hard right now.
And even with like Olivia and I, like, and like, we have to be so honest and so transparent, like, and just not take things personally as well. Like, you know, there'll be times she'll show up and I'm like, dude, I gotta be honest, like, I'm super emotional today. Like, if you look at me the wrong way, I'm gonna cry. And I mean, it's honestly like, that's the only way to do it, because, you know, people aren't mind readers, and, you know, you just have to be transparent with where you're at that day. And, you know, not every day is sunshine and rainbows. Like, some days, you know, you're really in the thick of it and you're just keeping your neck above water, you know?
Totally.
So we resonate with that so much.
And I so appreciate that relationship you have with your team, because I don't know, it feels like a breath of fresh air. Like, we don't often see people in the position of power who like get that. Like, they just don't get it. Like, and to hear what you have to say and how you operate with your team is just really inspiring for us. And I hope everyone listening to how to create a good culture for the people you work with. Like, you want the people working for you to be happy working for you. You don't want them to show up unhappy, miserable. Like, I'll never understand that. Yeah. So, you know, the happy employees, happy life. Like, happy wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy employees, happy life. 100%.
Yeah. I do have a few questions for you when it comes to your business and looking at it from like a really business aspect. And just if you have any tips for business owners who are trying to sell a service in particular, because I think a lot of people are used to selling products, and that's kind of like the go-to, or just something that people might not have as many questions on, but selling a service is really different. And I'm curious to know like how you navigated that when you were figuring it all out.
Don't be afraid to show up. You know, like, put yourself out there. People want to hear from you. If you're the one doing performing the service, like, people want to know who you are. And I think for a while I sat back and was like, no, the service will sell itself. And like, it didn't sell itself. I had to sell it, you know, and not in a way that's like sleazy or like I said, I'm not going to take on every client. I'm going to tell you if I'm right or if I'm not right for you. But like through testimonial, I think is now really how I sell. Let the work sell itself. But first you have to put yourself out there. I had to put myself out there and be like, hey, I'm doing this. I know it's impactful. It's helped me. Let me help you. And sort of just unapologetically put myself at the forefront of it. Because that's really, I mean, that's really what it is, right? Before somebody knows what they're getting into, they're trusting you.
Right.
And so give them a reason to trust you and just show up.
And when you say show up, do you mean just like a specific and, you know, maybe like some actionable takeaways for people? Do you mean like, you know, making like IGTVs or like showing up on stories?
Like showing face?
Yeah. Like in what ways are you showing up?
Yeah. I mean, I think stories are huge. I think also though, Instagram is constantly changing. So they want you to use what they want you to use.
Everyone like saw the story drops.
Now we're doing like a Clubhouse situation where like we want rooms. Yeah. Like, of course, I see it all, and you have to play that game. I think I'm like so against playing the game, but you have to play the game. So, I mean, I think reels work really well for people. I don't particularly use reels, but like I really do. When I say show up, I mean show your face in your stories. And like just that's what works for me.
Be present.
Showing my face in my stories, being present and being honest. And if I am having a bad day, even though I have to sell something, it's like saying, yo, I'm having a bad day, but like, this is what's going on at YAB. You want to, like, I'm just really myself. I'm really myself. And I think a huge trap that people can get into when they're first starting is thinking they have to be somebody that they're not. Don't. Like, literally just be you. Be you and let the rest fall into place. Play an active role. Like, do what you need to do to make shit happen, but like, just be yourself. Like, it's so obvious when somebody's not being themselves. It's so obvious when they're just trying to sell you a service without any heart behind it.
I mean, I could name like multiple people that do that. You know,
you know it. You can totally tell. What you want is people to see your why. Why are you doing this? Truly. Show them, tell them, speak it, live it. You know what I mean? Like, really just live as yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's especially true now with all of these programs happening where it's like, I'll teach you how to be a coach, or I'll teach you how to lead others. And I feel like you could fall into a very cookie cutter place. So thank you for that reminder. I think that's really invaluable. I mean, be yourself. We're all unique in our own ways. And I think everyone forgets that. You know, everyone starts looking the same with the plastic surgery and the same trends. But we are all unique in our own ways. And I think using that to your advantage is where it's at.
Yeah, and don't get discouraged either, because it definitely takes time. Like, people have to see things a couple times before they trust it. Like, I have people to me who's like, I've been following you for 2 years and I've been wanting to do this for 2 years, but then like talk myself out of it for X, Y, and Z reason, right? It's not personal. It's not that I didn't do something in 2 years to get them to do it. It's they had to come to it on their own. But don't get discouraged. Like, if I sat there and got discouraged, I wouldn't keep showing up, and I wouldn't then keep bringing in the people who are meant to come to me when they were meant to come to me.
I love that. I also just kind of want to put out there that, like, you know, we kind of say, oh, be transparent on your stories, you know, show up even if you're not, you know, in a great mood, like, let people know that. And that doesn't mean to like show up and cry on your stories necessarily,
right? People just do that, and that's what they think. And
you know to be transparent, sometimes that's not it. But I think that, you know, even just doing something as simple as just like voicing, like being like, oh yeah, well today, you know, X, Y, and Z happened, or not even like saying what happened if you're not comfortable with it, just be like, yeah, today's
not a good day.
Today's not a good day for me, but this is what we're doing. Like, I'm still showing up, and these are even like, I feel like sharing things that you're doing to make yourself like feel better are really, really helpful, because like, you know, even as influencers, which is really like our first and like main job, it's like our job is to show up on stories, on posts, and whatever, and it's like, sometimes that can feel really inauthentic when we're not feeling our best. But like kind of relieving that pressure and being like, I could show up and not have to be perfect and be like, hey guys, I having a shit day, couldn't tell you why, but this is just where I'm at and this is what I'm doing. And I find, I don't know, I always find like a lot of respect for the people that show up like that. Or even like, and I think it's even an opportunity to get your community involved. If you want to take it that extra step and be like, what are the things that you do when you're feeling down? Or, you know, maybe like putting like a poll and being like, do you prefer X or Y when you're feeling down? Like movies or books? And like even that, I feel like can also give you just like a sense of community. And I feel like a lot of us, when we're, you know, feeling down, can feel alone, and kind of just putting yourself out there for other people. Like it'll remind you that you're not alone as well.
Yeah, you're not alone. We're all the same, and we're different, and we're experiencing things that are different, but every human being has the capacity to feel, so everyone can relate always.
It's not like people are exempt from experiencing sadness, you know.
And as far as the service goes too, it's like what I'm learning right now, and like it's interesting because I've gotten the feedback now like 4 or 5 times. I live in the YIB woods, right? Like I live in the world of Your Inner Babe. I eat it, I breathe it, I sleep. Like it is my life. So I know exactly what it is and what we do, and what, like, people don't know that. Not everybody knows what YIB is as much as I want everyone to know. Not everybody knows. So like, it's my job to make it known. It's my job to explain it. And like, I have a spiritual healer who works for YIB, and like, she does Reiki and cards and like all this great stuff. But people don't just know what Reiki is. Not everyone does, you know? So you got to go on there and show up and like, this is why I got into Reiki. This is like my why. This is why it's so important. This is what other people are saying about it after they do it. Like, you have to play to your audience. Not everybody knows. Just because you're selling a service that you know is important doesn't mean everybody knows why it's important or what it will do. So just keep doing it, keep speaking, and I think a tangible thing, whatever. I mean, just don't be discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Trust in yourself and what you have to offer.
So true. I also, wrapping up the business aspect of it, I do want to ask you about your approach to pricing your services. I know that is a hard space for a lot of people to navigate, especially when it is a service and not like a tangible good. And, you know, like we've mentioned this in a few episodes before too, but it's like, how do you put a price on something that's invaluable, you know? So I am definitely curious to hear your approach in pricing your different programs.
It's, for me, it's a lot of gut instinct. Like I'm really, my intuition is very strong, and I've priced things before at a price and then changed it because it didn't feel right. Nothing that I do at YIB is meant for large groups unless we do a large group workshop, which will be like, which will be under $100, usually $40 or less. Right. But the things that I do group wise are intimate, and those are priced literally on gut instinct. I wish I had a better answer than that.
No, I love that.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
I love that.
Sometimes like, you don't have like a formula, you know?
No, it's like I got great advice when I first started coaching. Someone said like, write your dream price on a piece of paper and then write another price and like see what like lights you up. And like, that's these prices, the things that we charge people, like they make me excited, but they don't make me nervous. I'm not like afraid of them. I'm not like worried people are going to be offended by them. They feel just good to me. So as far as pricing a service goes, like what feels good to you? What would you pay for it?
Yeah.
Right. And then you can see as you go on, am I undervaluing myself? Am I overvaluing? Like, I just think be really honest, show up with integrity, right? Like I've also had, when I used to only do one-on-one coaching, I changed my prices to this and then lowered them again and then raised them again. Like I'm not really ever married to a price because it's not about the numbers for me, but I think as far as pricing a program goes, for me, it's always and will always be gut instinct.
I love that.
I love that so much.
And even like we recently launched.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we've done. We recently launched our creative agency, which is a like a content creation agency, right. And we had started off with this package that was a little bit more modest because, you know, we were like, oh well, you know, we want to make it kind of like super accessible and whatever. But then we I think changed it like a couple days later because we were like, wait, no, that's not it. And we ended up like changing the pricing simply off of gut feeling, not based off of like market research and what our competitors were doing. It's just like, it's what felt good to us that
while still feeling fair.
Like what you said, like it made us excited, but didn't make us nervous. And I think that is the sweet spot.
Such a good guideline for people.
Yeah. And for me, at least in YIB, like we will always have something for everybody. If you can't do a program, maybe you can do a workshop. If you can't do a workshop, maybe you can buy a journal, and you can start with me from my podcast where I journal with you. Like, you know, maybe you pop into a free session. Like there will always be something for you. But I never want to push myself so far out of this range that I feel is real. You know, because then I'm just going to be sitting there second guessing and questioning all the time. Like I want to feel good about what I'm putting out there with the price tag that I'm putting on it.
Yeah. And like, I think it's really, like you said, about being honest with yourself, because, you know, you also want to scale. And that's kind of where I feel like it gets a little tricky, because, you know, then you're like, okay, well, you're like, you kind of reach this cap where you're like, oh, well, I need to start charging more. And I feel like it's just being honest with yourself and taking an honest look at like your business. And, you know, it's not a one size fits all. It's just, you know, like you said, being honest.
Yeah. And then when we scaled, like when I was just doing one-on-one, to scale, I started doing group. And then group became cheaper than one-on-one if you broke it down by session, because you're with people and you're not just with me one-on-one. And then to scale again, because now group's doing great, then I start bringing on one-on-one coaches. And it's like, there's just ways to do it. And listen, I'm learning too.
Right.
I'm also learning every single day of my life. I'm reading and I'm trying to expand my knowledge and what works and what doesn't work. And like I also said, I made a lot of fucking mistakes and I paid for them. And so just for me, I think no matter how big it gets, no matter whatever happens, it will always be, my gut will always ride, always.
Intuition over everything.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, I think we're going to move on to our final 2 questions. Was there anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I think that was great.
Cool.
This episode breezed by. I can't believe we're like an hour later.
I feel like we could sit here and talk to you literally all night through the night.
I would love to. That makes me so happy.
It's so good, and I really feel like we're providing so much value for our audience, and it's definitely like re-inspired us just as small business owners, and as we're like, you know, in our journeys. It's just a nice reminder to be aligned completely with like ourselves and have that match our businesses. So thank you.
And our culture.
Okay, so let's get into the 2 questions. We ask this to every guest. So the first question is, what is your biz pro tip? So it could be something really small, like, I don't know, an app you use, or something larger, like a mindset tip. Literally whatever you want it to be.
Maybe I have 2.
Go for it.
Biz pro tip would be implement a brain dump if you can in your day. Literally give yourself 3 to 5 minutes. Start at 3 if 5 sounds intimidating, and clear your brain. Clear your mind, write in a journal. Like, don't judge what comes up. Don't even reread it. Just fucking write. I don't even care if you're listening to this and you're like a small business owner and you're starting and you're like, I don't know, I listened to this podcast and like this girl Jacq was like telling me to brain dump. Like, I don't give a shit. Just write and clear your mind. And so then you can show up clearer to the day and make decisions clearer. And like, for me, that's like game changer, game over. I do it every morning.
Incredible.
I love that.
Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, and anyone could do it. You don't need to have a journal. Take a piece of printer paper, right? Like do it on your phone, open your notes app if you want. I'm like big with pen to paper, but to each their own. Just clear your mind. And then I would say a little like piece of advice that's a little cheesier, but really I repeat to myself over and over again. You don't have to be perfect to inspire anybody. Like if you want to start and you want to help people or do whatever you want to do, you don't have to be perfect. Just start. Own your imperfections and then let everybody else be inspired by that. Like just start somewhere.
So good.
I love that. So our next question is actually, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received? Would you say that those go hand in hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
So good.
Totally. I honestly, and I really love the brain dumping thing, because it's funny. I actually saw someone else like, you know, writing about it and like just like, you know, encouraging others to do it. And I kind of felt very called to it. So that kind of just reinforced that.
Yeah.
Love and it. I think even for
no coincidence.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. And I even think that just like for businesses like and teams, like I think that, you know, I mean, at the very least, a weekly brain dump for like the entire team should be, you know, implemented and encouraged.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, my team does it, and my husband, who definitely doesn't work in any sort of wellness world.
I thought she was just going to say it doesn't work. I was
like,
shit. I was like, breadwinner, baby.
No, he jokes, but he would kill me. He works. But he started to journal. My youngest brother, who's in investment banking, started to do a brain dump. You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't just have to apply to small businesses, coaching or anything like that. It could literally be for anybody. Anybody could benefit from a brain dump or a journal practice. Like, journaling and writing has just transformed my connection to myself and my mind.
Love that. Good. Yeah, I think there's a lot that we hold on our back burner. We're not even aware of it. We're just holding it in our subconscious. So when you do the brain dump, it's like a relief almost.
Yeah, I feel like I would start with 5 minutes and end up being there for an hour.
Totally.
Because where does it end? Yeah. Where does it end?
You do reach an end point. Like, you 100% do. But I do 8 to 10 minutes because 5 minutes is, unless I have no time and I only have time for 3 to 5 minutes. I don't judge that, but my sweet spot is like 8 to 10 minutes. Like, and then I just stop writing and I'm like, okay, we're done.
Cool. Yeah, love that practice as an everyday thing, first thing in the day. That's awesome.
Yeah.
This has been so good. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. It's been really an honor and so enjoyable for us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, definitely
Thank you so much for having me.
A breath of fresh air, honestly.
Yeah, truly.
And honestly, I'm so glad to have connected and, hope to stay connected moving forward, and glad to have you in our lives now.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be a part of the Whiskey and Water family. Thank you for having me.
Please tell our audience where they can learn more about you, follow you, check out your website, check out your programs. Please plug everything.
Well, follow me at Jacq Gould, JACQGOULD. DM me always. I really do always respond, unless you're mean. Aww. And then I won't. But DM me. You can email me, Jacqueline@yourinnerbabe.com. You can go to the website, yourinnerbabe.com, and see everything that you can participate in. Like I said, there's so many avenues, but the road in is Reconnected. So if you're feeling called to, checking in on yourself, connecting to who you are, your true essence, spirit, your inner babe, start with me. I can change your life in 8 weeks. Just give me that time. Just don't hesitate to ask for help. I want to say that. I want that to be something I make sure to say. It can be scary to take the first step. And sometimes I think it's very easily written off, like, oh, I just sent a DM, who cares, whatever. But it isn't a who cares, whatever. It's a step forward towards you. And you deserve to feel like yourself, and you deserve everything that you desire. And I would love to be the one to help you get there.
Love that.
Incredible.
You're amazing.
We love it so much. Guys, if you loved this episode, please post it on your story, tag us, let us know you're listening, let us know you loved it and found it super valuable. And I think that wraps it up for this week.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
We will see you next week. Bye.